Welcome everybody back to the Battletoads. You want a cool way to furnish your fish room? Stay tuned for a fun project.
All right, so this is what we're gonna use for our furniture. This is a 55-gallon aquarium stand. My dad got this in 1977. It was used then, and it's made of iron. So let's see what we're gonna do with this. So as we know, this stand is at least 45 years old. So the first thing we're gonna do is sand this down. I've used some steel wool and just sanded it down every little place I could. It had, a little bit of rust, but no holes. It's in really good shape. It's really solid. So try to get this thing with some steel wool as smooth as you can. So next, what I did is I put two things. One, I drilled some holes. I used a masonry bit. I need to drill holes so I can attach the bench. And then I put one coat here of this super matte finish. And so I got one coat there, and you can see I started to drill a hole there, and I'll drill two more holes on the other two sides. Here is an up-close view of one of the holes. It takes a little bit of muscle, but it does finally go through. So here's an example of me drilling one of the holes. This is in real time. I had my daughter film this. So it doesn't take too long, probably 30 seconds. I'm not sure masonry bit was the perfect choice, but it definitely works. It gets pretty hot. The drill gets a little bit hot, so I wouldn't advise doing these back to back to back to back. But with a little bit of pressure, try to keep that drill straight up and down. And this is just a battery powered drill. And like I said, with a little bit of pressure, keep that drill bit straight up and down best you can. And eventually it'll work itself through. Not difficult really at all. And just make sure you're really in the middle of that length. And there it goes, straight through. Easy peasy. Next, here's me putting on a second coat of paint. Definitely takes two coats. In some places, maybe three, but two coats is pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect, just trying to cover up any of the old surface. It's gonna be in a humid environment in the fish room and possibly water, so I'm gonna try to protect that the best you can. Again, I've had my daughter film me here, so sorry for the shakiness. All right, so here's me finishing the second coat. Sped this up a little bit, so it didn't take too long. It's not rocket science, but you just want to try to get all the surfaces underneath, in the corners, inside corners, outside corners. As you can see, the stand's got some kind of intricate curls there, so you got to make sure you get in those. Crevices and edges. But I think it really turned out really great. And for being such an old stand, this was really in great shape. So it's been in the family, like I said, for at least 45 years. Here is the finished product, all painted. Like I said, two good coats on all sides. And looks pretty good. Nice and clean. So the next thing you want to do is measure the size of wood that you need to cut for the base of the bench. This is just under 13 inches wide, and that's what I ended up cutting, and it's about 48 and some change long, so I think I went 49 inches on the total length. So next we're gonna move to the wood here. This is, I believe it's 1/2 inch. It's birch plywood. You can use really any decent plywood that you have. One tip is make sure that whatever you cut, it's slightly larger than the top base of your stand. So again, I think I ended up cutting this 13 by 49, which worked out fine. In hindsight, I wish I would have gone a little bit wider, maybe 13.5 inches, but you definitely want a little bit of overlap with the base of your seat on top of that stand. So that's you know, the one tip that I would give you for sure. But as long as the wood's in decent shape and it's not warped or rotted at all and it's solid, then it will work. This is just something I had laying around as scrap, so that's what I used. So make sure to take good measurements, give yourself a little bit of overlap for the top of whatever the top of that stand is, and that way you can attach your seat to it. Next here we're gonna cut. So I'm just using a battery powered circular saw. I'm not the greatest craftsman when it comes to woodworking, but real easy, just a couple cuts. Again, just make sure you take good measurements, and you can keep that cut as straight as possible. This side's 49 inches, so that's a pretty good reach. So you gotta come to the side to finish this off. And there she goes. Pretty clean cut. All right, next we're gonna give it a little sand. This is just a multi-tool with some sandpaper on it. It doesn't sand the greatest. It's a little bit ragged. I think it's because the blade I used in my circular saw was not for plywood. You want to use a fine tooth blade, and I did not have one, so I had a kind of a rougher cut. But just give it a decent sand. You can see I sped this up. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but just try to get all sides. It'll end up being covered anyway, but the smoother you can make that, the easier you'll make it on yourself later on. All right, this is the cushion that I'm going to use. My wife found this at just a craft supply store. So just your basic cushion for benches. So props to my wife, she helped me with this. So all you've got to do is cut the padding and just a slight overlap on your wood. She used an Easy Tack spray adhesive just to kind of attach it to the wood. You can see it's just overlapped a little bit over the wood. And that's just because when you cover it, you don't want the wood edge to be showing. So here's the other side. You can see it's overlap. And I think we ended up cutting this a little bit down so it wasn't overlapped as much, but this is what it looks like on the underside. And that's the material we're using to cover it. So this is it all covered underneath, and all we did is use a staple gun to finish it in. You've got to pull it really tight. and we use 3/8 inch staples, and with just a basic hobby staple gun. All right, here's the finished product in the fish room. We just picked a scrap piece of fabric that we had laying around, and doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a really comfortable seat. It's going to be great for viewing all the tanks in the fish room.
So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we took a at least 45-year-old, 55-gallon iron aquarium stand and turned it into a bench for your fish room. If you like content like this, you want to see more projects and follow along as we build this fish room, please consider subscribing, hit that like and notification bell so you can be notified when we upload new videos. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.